Good evening to every one of you. Honorable Banagala Upatis Swamin Wansa, Rajendran Rajamahendra, fondly known as Kili, and his gracious wife Canis, Mr. Rajendran Maharaja and his wife Ruki, my cabinet colleagues, state ministers, deputy ministers, the IGP, members of parliament, Chaturika and Tilana, excellencies, diplomatic community, joint managing directors Pradeep and Sashi, group directors, management of the Capital Maharaja Organization Group, ladies and gentlemen. I am joined by Mela in expressing my heartfelt thanks for the honor bestowed to me to be our chief guest today. Kili, under your dynamic leadership, the Capital Maharaja Organization has established itself as the largest private sector health conglomerate in the country. And the performance report that was given by the Joint Managing Director, Sashi, doesn't need for me to amplify any further. The political climate in the country is improving, and I'm sure when you come to the 40th annual convention, you'll see that the results have gone well past what they have estimated. So let me wish all of you a very robust group. And I wouldn't want to take too much time expressing the aggressive growth that is taking place in the Capital Maharaja Organization, because being a friend of the group, I have seen how it has moved from strength to strength, and also the sagacity, the leadership that is given, the younger generation taking on, and that is the success story behind it. Let me take you just back to the recent past. On the 8th of January 2015, the people of this country elected a new government. In the process, a leader that was thought to be unconquerable was democratically dethroned, and a human element elected by the people, President Maithripala Sirisena, was elected the president of this country. The same day, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed, and an interim government was put to place. On the 17th of August 2015, we had the second election in the country. And with that process, you basically had a formation of a very strong government. A government where two leaders get together to have one vision for the country, and that for the future of this country. Today you could see that we have a very strong national government, bringing in the sense of consistency and coherency that is expected, and you could see that the world is looking at Sri Lanka in a different way. And that is the success story in the last couple of months that you have seen. And as Sashi mentioned in his reports, you could see that sense of confidence coming in where demand has grown. He only showed the positive sides. The negative sides is what for me to say in the next couple of minutes. And you'll see as to how we have managed the economy in today's context. The change of administration comes inheritance as well. Debt-ridden country, a lack of sound policies, no independence, judiciary, in the media, human rights, nepotism, isolated in the world community, wanton waste, etc., are some of the things that come along. With this background, I was entrusted with the task of the finance of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, when I saw that slide of 1983, I see no difference between what Kili and his brother inherited in 83 to what we inherited in 2015. Devastated, capital blown off, but the will to go forward is what was there. Your theme for this convention, challenge everything, is most appropriate. Therefore, I thought it was my duty to speak today on navigating the Sri Lankan economy through turbulent times. John F. Kennedy mentioned, "We are here not to curse the darkness, but to light the candle that can guide us through the darkness to safe and a saner future. That is where I would like to start. The policies needs to be spelled out. That's where our President and our Prime Minister, with the vision for the future, ensure that they enshrine the policies that are required for the country. What was expected is the consistency, the coherency, and the coordinated approach. This together with the technological soundness, as well as the political feasibility and the administration deliverability, had to be coined in. And in this short time, we have been able to transform Sri Lanka from where it was to what is it today. Many more things have got to happen. But as you know, a year has only 365 days. On the areas of human rights and democracy, I think the strident changes have taken place in this. When the election, when President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe inherited the running of this government, we were plagued with the situation of UN sanctions being put forward, with being isolated from the world, but owing to their actions and our government action, you have been able today to ensure that the UN have given us the commendation that things have changed. And we have also been rewarded with the EU fishing ban being lifted. And before too long, you will have the GSP that we lost and the economy is paying so dearly today. These are the things that have moved forward. And these are things that cannot be quantified, but you could only see in time to come as the impact it has had on the economy. On the areas of media, I don't need to say too much. Shashi mentioned that. No white vans coming. No military exercise coming in to do that in MTV. Today you have a safe and sound policy that is there. You report, we decide, but we take what you report. That's the way we go forward. Today the sense of democracy, the decency is there. You have a right to criticize. And if you are unable to listen to that criticism and able to form a government, then there is no point being in that leadership. And that's the difference between a human, decent government that you have today and what was outplaced just in the recent past. So I saw also in the international press certain statistics which have Sri Lanka has moved from 165th position in 2015 to being 141 in this year, in 2016. So you could see things are moving forward. Then the areas that basically have the biggest problem is the finance. And that has got to do with the fiscal responsibility. With the fiscal consolidation, we have been able to instill the sense of confidence that is coming in. Financial discipline that was lacking has been restored. Corruption that was order of the day today, we are fighting day in, day out. And we call in the media to help us in this process because we believe when the top is clean, it flows down. And we challenge the system today. We want to say that not to reduce corruption, but to ensure that we eradicate corruption. And that's the challenge that we have taken. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cabinet and the new government has an arduous task of able to fight against this injustice. But it's not easy. Lip service is easy, but getting that performance is the difficulty. But if you have a will to go forward, and that's what President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe together is doing, I would appreciate every one of your assistance. The areas that you feel, because we feel that we are open government, we're a human government. We are prone to fallibility, and it is you all that can help us to correct ourselves and move forward. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the way that today we have fiscal consolidation taking place, the revenues. In 2005, you had roughly 17.5% of revenue against GDP. In 2015, on the 8th when we took over, the revenues were 10.2% of GDP. Today we have been able to salvage itself to 13.1% because the sense of discipline that is coming in. But there's far more journey to travel. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the way we are trying to increase the revenue of this. In a country that has 22 million people, I'm astonished that there is only 47,252 corporate tax files that are there. Only open, not that they pay. There are 8 million in the workforce. The private sector represents almost 85%, but there is only 452,181 pay files. That's open, not that they pay hundreds of thousands. Likewise, the non-corporate tax files, there's only 152,080. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the sense of civic consciousness of our people. They expect everything for nothing. We do understand that it is the duty of the government, but at the end of the day, the revenue is required to meet those expenditure. In the limited resources and unlimited requirements, it is prioritization that is required in the process. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the way that we utilize your taxpayers' money to the best use that is available at our disposal. I was so happy to see the performance that was there. And if this was known before, I'm sure we would have been able to tax a little higher, and the super gain could have been increased a little more, but that's only something of the past, never to repeat itself again. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate, at a time when the government wanted to ensure that financial discipline was being focused, that we wanted to ensure expenditure met with revenue, you all came forward and assisted us. And it was last year, our expenditure was well within the revenues that we earn. There was no debt incurred or increased to the national debt that is there as of today. Then the areas of expenditure reduction is another area as we're trying to see the fiscal space being increased, and we have been successful in able to prune out unwanted expenditure that is there. Areas of subsidies are things that we want to target where the needy should get, they must get. There's no way that will reduce that. But there's no way that a person who should be paying taxes receive that subsidies. That's the difference in the way that we want to mold our economy. We want to ensure that the people who really got to get that benefit that they deserve. The President, Maithripala Sirisena, fights this right from the helm itself. Ably assisted with the Prime Minister, who basically steers on the basis that that's the only way to eradicate poverty, not to fortify that. Ladies and gentlemen, coming on to the areas of budget deficits, it's a thing that we have been having, 6.57% that is there. It is our intention, as the Prime Minister has spelled out, that year by year 2020, that we'll see a 3.5% of budget deficit. So these are the areas that we, on your behalf, temporarily given the running of the government, to express the best way forward, to see as to how little Sri Lanka can be a showcase in Southeastern Asia. On the basis of that, we have today managed to increase our fiscal space. And that's the reason why, when we are about to take off, you had the economic turbulences that were there in the world economy. You had China for the first time in their economic progress having a devaluation of their currency. A 13% devaluation by China, a 15% devaluation by India. How can little Sri Lanka get isolated in the process? We are a leaf caught in the winds, and we had to devalue to a certain extent. But you could see the rupee when we took over was 135, went to 149, back to 145. But as you see, we are seeing with intense negotiations with multilateral agencies. You'll see the success before too long. And with that, you'll have the confidence that is coming in. And then you'll have the foreign investments that come in. And before too long, you'll have the rupee, which is strengthened as it could be. And it will be much less than the graph that depicted over there. So these are the areas that we basically want to add on to your sense of confidence so that you'll be able to put your confidence in the economy that is there. We want to ensure that we have a strong Sri Lankan economy. That is where even from the budget and our policies that we dictate, that we give first priority to the Sri Lankans. In the eventual situation that the Sri Lankans cannot meet up to that demand, then it is the expectation that we look at, you all get the foreign technical know-how from the foreigners. And that coming in will help us to ensure the economy go forward. If both of them do not get together, then the third option is to get the foreign investments coming in. And that's the way that we have fashioned our economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, With that, then there is one more political dynamite that was there. We inherited a huge public debt. And that public debt is something in year 2005, January 1st, we had a total public debt from independence to 2005 of 1,784 billion. Today, when we took office, the total public debt stands to be 9,828. Contingent liabilities do still come into the picture, but I just mentioned the total public debt that is there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest problem that we have. We don't have sufficient revenues to meet the debt servicing. Haphazard borrowing, tenures being short, interest rates being high, both put together, does not help to ensure that the revenues meet up with the debt servicing. That was the biggest task our government had when we took office. But owing to the help that is there in the cabinet, collective thinking, with the process in the government, everybody's best foot was put forward, and today we are able to ensure that that is changed. We are ensuring the high interest rates are reduced with lower interest rates. We are ensuring the short tenure is converted to long tenure, and able to get multilateral agencies where you get at 0.5%, 1% with health conditions, without ensuring that you just get commercial borrowing, which are unconditional at 8 to 9%. So, ladies and gentlemen, I only want to take just 4 examples in the areas to how this 1,785 in 2005 became 9,800. Just 4 expenditure items will reflect how 75% go into those. The first being the Sri Lankan airline. You would have heard many stories about this. The total public debt and with total contingent liabilities is 465 billion. On the 1st of April 2009, when Sri Lankan Airlines was taken back from Emirates, we had a positive balance of 9.4 billion. When it basically was handed over, and as of today, it is 465 billion, of course, with the full contingent liabilities on. If you take the contingent liabilities out, the total written to the profit and loss is 220 billion. Now, this is roughly 1.6% of GDP. How on earth can you taxpayers be called upon to pay this? This off-balance sheet debt that was there, and today we have to reconcile with the fact that these have to be opened. And that was one of the reasons that when we had, owing to the abundance of prudence of trying to get the IMF confidence factor coming in, that these were the things that we had to confront with. But today, we're successfully negotiating this, where the state-owned enterprises can be looked at to be run in a different manner. But that has contributed to roughly $1,500 million. The Norwich power project was costing $1,500 billion. I'm sorry, $1,500 million US dollars. The third one is the Hambantota project. Our total revenue on a value-added basis is only 4 million a year. We have spent up to now 188 billion. This is the colossal amount of money that has been spent on capital projects that don't yield the revenue that is required. That alone costs 1,400 billion. And then the Southern Expressways and the Katuna Expressways, that has taken 2,200 million US dollars. When you add all of this, is 6,600 billion on just 4 projects. And that is how that the budget has, the deficit has ballooned to this effect. But that doesn't matter. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's the intention of the government under President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. We will ensure that we make success of this. You have placed your confidence in us, and it is our job to ensure that we deliver. Together, we'll ensure that it's delivered. Now our job is to ensure the economic aspirations are met. We have promised 1 million jobs, and that is over a progressive period of 4 years. We'll ensure that with the economy moving forward, you could see huge amounts of foreign direct investments being attracted to this country. And with the endorsement which is coming from the IMF, the World Bank, the ADB, the AIIB, and the private sector investments that are coming in. You would see that this is in fruition before too long. We have looked at commercializing the agriculture sector that is there, instead of being on a subsistence farming basis to more commercial-oriented thing. Then the areas of digitalization of the economy with a unique identity card system, which is going to eradicate duplication of expenditure, where a lot of malpractices have been taken. These are the areas that have been rectifying. The tourism is a success story, and I'm happy to see that the Capital Maharaja Group is venturing out into the boutique hotels that are there. I'm sure there's a huge potential that is there. It is more than the quantity, it is the quality that is required. We need to ensure that we increase the tourism rate, earnings per day from US dollars 130 to roughly about 250, and we see the upmarket tourism coming in. A more diversified export economy. The market access is something that we are really selling very, very aggressively, because little Sri Lanka does not have the critical mass. But certainly in the region, we have got the free trade agreement with India, which has 1.1 million market access. You have Pakistan on the other side with 220 million. Then you have the China free trade agreement that is coming on board. When you add these up, you have anybody that is going to look at Sri Lanka with a market access to this 1.5 billion market is something which is worthwhile. And that is what we are encouraging. Then improving the state sector enterprises from loss-making to wanton waste to lackadaisical management style to a much more commercial-oriented, responsible-oriented management style to be inculcated. So these are the areas, ladies and gentlemen, that we see the changes taking place. I'm sorry I mentioned megapolis is the area where we're trying to expand the Colombo into a much bigger area base so that it will help the investments to come into this area. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the areas that we are looking at promisingly taking Sri Lanka to a better tomorrow. I wouldn't want to take too much time. I was given 15 minutes to speak, and that's my friend Kili mentioned that most warmly. So I thought, firstly, that it was my duty to express as to what is the state of the economy today. Many things are written in the papers. Many we see on TV. Many we hear on radio. But this is the actual situation that is there. So today's date is that I report, you decide. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to come here today and able to speak with you, because the group, especially Kili and Canis, have been extremely helpful to us, not only personally, but even in our political journey, and I really appreciate Mela and I. And I'm sure that this is only the beginning, so very much more to go. And I can see the young transformation taking place with Pradeep and Sashi coming in with the new team. And you could see that this is the strength that it has gone on for 86 years. The way that it goes, it will go on for the next generations to come. And that's the success. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Sri Lanka has become a late starter. We have lost many opportunities before. But sometimes being a late starter has its advantages. The others are a spent force. Today, Sri Lanka is a country that is spoken of. It is Sri Lanka and Myanmar. Compared to Myanmar, we are far ahead. We are the new beauty on the investment block. So ladies and gentlemen, have confidence in us. We'll change Sri Lanka to better tomorrow. Together we can make that difference. God bless Sri Lanka.